If you want to invest in index funds and don't really know where to start, well then this video is for you. If you follow this channel, you know that I'm a big advocate of index funds, but I realize that as much as I advocate index funds, I've never really shown you how to actually buy an index fund. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to buy index funds. I'll show you what platforms I use to buy index funds, and I'll also show you the different types of index funds there are. And I know that index fund investing and investing in general can seem confusing, but I'm gonna make it really simple. In part one of this video, we'll discuss the two popular ways to buy an index fund. You can buy an index fund through a mutual fund, or you can use an ETF. Don't worry, we'll discuss it in detail. In part two of this video, I'll talk about how I buy index funds and which brokers you should use to buy your index funds. In part three of this video, we'll do a step-by-step tutorial on how to buy your first index fund. I'll use my TD AMERITRADE app as well as the Robinhood app, and I'll talk about the pros and cons of using both. And in part four of this video, I'll give you my final thoughts, which platforms you should use, which index funds you should invest in, and how you should buy your index funds. Should you use an ETF or should you use a mutual fund? Now, if this sounds good to you, please remember to smash that like button, and please consider joining the community by subscribing to my YouTube channel, because I have hundreds of videos that are just like this that are meant to benefit you financially. And with that, let's talk about the two ways that you can buy an index fund. And for this video, I'm gonna be using the Vanguard S&P 500 index fund as an example, because this is the most popular index fund in the world. And the first way that you can buy the Vanguard S&P 500 index fund is through a mutual fund offering. And this is really the more traditional way of investing in index funds, and is not really the way that I recommend. But just because it doesn't work for me doesn't mean that it's not right for you. This is Vanguard's S&P 500 index fund, which is sold in the form of a mutual fund, and it is called the Vanguard 500 Index Fund Admiral Shares, or VFIAX. Again, when you invest in this particular index fund, you are buying it as a mutual fund offering. And in order to buy VFIAX, you would have to open an account on Vanguard, and then you would be able to buy this Vanguard S&P 500 index fund. And again, this is a mutual fund offering. And while this is a way to buy an index fund, it's not the way that I recommend. This is kind of an old school way of buying index funds, and the biggest drawback of buying index funds directly through Vanguard or directly through another index fund provider is that you typically have an investment minimum. And as you can see with this fund, you need to have a minimum investment of $3,000 just to start investing in the S&P 500 index fund. No, thank you. The other drawback of buying an index fund in the form of a mutual fund is that you are only allowed to invest in this fund or other Vanguard index funds. So if you wanted to buy a Fidelity index fund or an Invesco index fund, you would not be able to. You'd have to stay within the Vanguard platform and only buy Vanguard index funds that are sold as mutual funds. But luckily, there is another way to buy index funds, and Vanguard actually hints at it on their website, because if you look closely, it clearly says that this fund is also available as an ETF, starting at the price of 1 share. And this leads me to the second way that you can buy an index fund, and that is buying it as an ETF or an exchange traded fund. You see, if you click on the ETF link, it will take you to the VOO homepage, which is Vanguard's S&P 500 index fund, which is sold as an ETF offering instead of a mutual fund offering. And the beauty of an ETF is that it trades just like a stock. As a matter of fact, for purposes of this video, you can think of an ETF as a stock. And the fact that an ETF trades just like a stock, that means that you can use any broker to buy VOO. You can actually use Vanguard itself because Vanguard actually provides brokerage services, but I recommend you use a more traditional online broker like TD Ameritrade, Schwab, Fidelity, Robinhood, or M1 Finance to buy VOO or any other index fund ETF. And by using a broker like TD Ameritrade, Schwab, or Robinhood, you will not only have access to Vanguard's suite of index fund ETFs, But you'll also have access to Fidelity's index fund ETFs, State Street's index fund ETFs, and any other index fund that is offered in the form of an ETF. So to recap this section, you can buy index funds through two different financial products. You can buy them as a mutual fund offering, or you can buy them as an ETF offering. Going the mutual fund route means that if you wanted to buy Vanguard index funds, you'd have to create a Vanguard account, and you'd only be able to buy Vanguard index funds. Or you'd have to open a Fidelity account and only be able to buy Fidelity index funds. You wouldn't be able to open a Vanguard account and buy Fidelity index funds, and vice versa. And the downside of going this mutual fund route means that you have an account investment minimum. And in this case of the Vanguard S&P 500 index fund, the minimum investment amount is $3,000. But the second way that you can buy index funds is through your broker in the form of an ETF or an exchange-traded fund. And this is the way that I invest in index funds, and all you need to do this is a brokerage account like TD Ameritrade, Fidelity, Schwab, Robinhood, or M1 Finance, and there are plenty of others out there. And again, by buying an index fund in the form of an ETF, it's no different than buying a stock. And by buying an index fund in the form of an ETF, you don't have the high account investment minimums like you do with mutual funds. Remember that the mutual fund, the S&P 500 mutual fund, had an account investment minimum of $3,000. Well, when you buy the ETF, VOO, it only costs about $388 a share. And with buying index funds in the form of an ETF, you can buy any index fund that you want from any provider as long as they have a ticker symbol. If you want to buy Fidelity index fund ETFs, you can. If you want to buy Vanguard index fund ETFs, you can. So for me, it's sort of a no-brainer. ETFs are the way to go to buy index funds. In part 2 of the video, I want to talk about how I buy index funds and which brokers I use. Personally, I use TD Ameritrade, but that doesn't mean that you have to use TD Ameritrade. There are a bunch of reputable brokers out there, but the reason that I use TD Ameritrade is because as you get more advanced and start trading options or other financial instruments, TD Ameritrade really lets you scale as you become a more advanced trader or investor. Specifically, they have a trading platform called Thinkorswim, and it's regarded as one of the best trading platforms in the world, and it is included for free with a TD Ameritrade account. But there are a whole host of other brokers out there that I would recommend, like Fidelity, Robinhood, Webull, M1 Finance, Schwab. The list really goes on and on. And setting up a brokerage account with any one of these providers is super easy and should not take you more than 15 minutes. You'll have to answer some questions, which is called the KYC or Know Your Customer, and then you'll link your checking account, and then you should be up and running and ready to trade the same day. And once you have a brokerage account set up, you can buy my favorite index fund, which is the Vanguard S&P 500 Index Fund ETF, which trades under ticker symbol VOO. But honestly, once you have a brokerage account set up, you can buy any of the other thousands of index funds that are issued by providers like Fidelity and Invesco. Now in this section of the video, I want to do a live tutorial showing you how easy it is to buy an index fund ETF like VOO. And as I mentioned earlier, I'll do a quick tutorial using TD Ameritrade, and then I'll do a quick tutorial using Robinhood. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm on the homepage of the TD Ameritrade app. And as you can see in the upper right-hand corner, there's a search bar, and I will just type in VOO, and there it is, the Vanguard S&P 500 ETF. Then you hit trade here in the upper right-hand corner. Trade, we'll buy, and then we can buy, it's trading at $389 a share. In quantity, I can buy, one share, or I can buy 5 shares. Let's just buy 1 share just as an example. We'll go ahead and review order, and we will place the order. Boom, done. And the beauty about using a broker is that I'm not isolated to only buying the Vanguard S&P 500 ETF. If I wanted to buy the Invesco S&P 500 ETF, I can do that as well. All I need to do is type in that ticker symbol, which is IVV, and boom, I'd be buying Invesco S&P 500 Index Fund ETF shares. So in the search bar, I would just type in IVV instead of VOO, and it has the same expense ratio, and it trades at $425 a share. I would just trade it and pretty much go through the same steps, and I have the Invesco S&P 500 Index Fund ETF. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we did TD Ameritrade. Now let's do Robinhood. This is the Robinhood homepage, and down at the bottom, you'll see the search icon. And here I would just do the same thing. I can do VOO. There it is. And I would just hit trade and you just say buy. And the great thing about Robinhood is that even though VOO trades at, what does it trade at? $389 a share. When I hit buy, with Robinhood, I can actually buy fractional shares. So let's say if I didn't have $389 or if I didn't want to spend $389, I could just go up to the top right-hand corner. Instead of buying in shares, I can hit buy in dollars, and then I can just put in, $10, or I can put in $20, and I just review the order. Sorry, I don't have enough buying power here because my account isn't connected on Robinhood, but yeah, you get the idea. And the other cool thing about Robinhood actually, which I want to show you, so we go trade, let's go to buy. Instead of hitting dollars or buying shares, let's set up a reoccurring investment. And then what you can do is just click on, let's buy every month on the 16th. You can hit continue. You can just add your bank account, hit continue, and say every month on the 16th, I want to buy, $250 or $2,500 worth of VOO. And this is an awesome way to dollar cost average into the S&P 500 Index Fund ETF. And the fact that Robinhood lets you buy fractional shares and also lets you set up reoccurring investments this easy really is a competitive advantage that I think Robinhood has over TD Ameritrade. TD Ameritrade is going to add this functionality, but as of today, you cannot buy fractional shares or to set up reoccurring investments, at least to my knowledge, on TD Ameritrade. You definitely can't buy fractional shares. I'm not sure about the reoccurring investments. I hope that you found this video helpful and informative, because over the past couple of weeks, I've had many subscribers and friends and family ask me how they can buy index funds. So I really hope this video answers a lot of your questions. But if you have any additional questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below and I will be sure to get back to you. And if you want to keep it more private, you can hit me up on Instagram. I am happy to help. So in summary, there are two ways to buy an index fund. You can buy them in the form of a mutual fund, or you can buy them in the form of an exchange traded fund, also known as an ETF. My recommendation is to invest in index funds through an ETF because it just provides much more flexibility and does not require a minimum investment amount. And all you need to buy an index fund ETF is a brokerage account, and you can set that up within 15 or 20 minutes. Well, with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to call it a video. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.